Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to once again head a little bit north for this review to Eskilstuna, out to the west of Stockholm, which is home to a number of nice breweries these days, but we're going to revisit one who I've reviewed a good couple of beers from before. But this is a beer style that I've never tried from them, and it's also one that you don't come across all that often in Sweden these days. So for this review then, we are going to return to Möllys Kvarterbryggeri, or Möllys Brewery as they're sometimes called. I'm not sure exactly what the correct way to refer to these guys is, but this particular beer is called the Nemesis. They're describing it as a Florida IPA, and it comes in at 6% ABV. So Florida IPAs, in my experience, they tend to be a little bit wheaty and bitey. They've also got a bit of a kind of pale malty crispness about them, and they also tend to be a little bit more kind of citricy and tart. They do have a little bit of an almost sour beer type quality to them as well. The brewery that most Europeans, or I guess most beer-loving Europeans, would probably have heard of in terms of the Florida IPA is most likely to be J. Wakefield. I've only had a couple of this beer style. I've had collaborations involving J. Wakefield, but I've also had Florida type IPAs from I think I've had one or two from Bryggeriet in Landskrona here in Skåne, and also Brewski from Helsingborg in Skåne as well. I don't know if I've had something from Dugges that has been quite similar actually, but as I say, this is a style that you don't come across all that often. The Florida IPA is one of the kind of lesser known subcategories of IPA, I guess you could say. Everyone these days is on the New England hazy type thing, of course, so the Florida IPA is basically a slightly sour version. A slightly sour and kind of more wheaty leaning IPA in my experience. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. This particular beer was released on the 1st of July 2020 as part of the July Lokalis Moskalikt assortment in Systembolaget. They released this along with one that was called like Skiftlig or something like that, which was a kind of regular type IPA from what I understand. But it was this one that caught my eye because they said Florida style IPA, and as I say, not a common style. So hopefully it turns out to be a nice beer. It's my first ever IPA that I'm trying from Möllys as well, so I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one, and I'm very curious to see what it has in store for us. So yeah, let's see how we go. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri before. No doubt there will be some more added to that in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Möllys Kvarterbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Möllys Kvarterbryggeri, or Möllys Brewery as they also seem to be known, are based in Eskilstuna, out to the west of Stockholm, as I already mentioned, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Daniel Herdigen, who is half German and half Swedish. So apparently his father's German family can trace their brewing roots back to the 18th century, and his father's family come from Erlangen, which is just outside of Nuremberg. And he spent a lot of time in Germany, but he was actually born when the family were living in Sweden. But this area in the north of Bavaria is called Franconia, or Franken auf Deutsch, Franken in German. And this is the area in the world that has the highest density of breweries per head of population anywhere in the world. My friend Daniel, who's responsible for me being into beer in the first place, he lives in Bamberg, and I was down there just under 2 years ago to visit him. I do need to get back down there and see him once again. But it's a very famous beer region, and Erlangen, I've heard, has a lot of nice brew pubs and pubs and things like that actually, so I do need to try and get there and have a look at that sometime on my next trip down there, because I spent most of my last trip in Bamberg, of course. But to go back to Daniel, he started off home brewing, of course, and then he soon expanded it to a 500 litre brew kit, and he produced around 25,000 litres of beer in 2019 with about 50 different beer sorts in total. A few other interesting beers have been brewed by this brewery though. In early 2018 they made a beer for Messiah Marklin's 50th birthday, of course the famous, the singer of the famous band Candlemass Gothenburg doom metal, if I remember rightly. That beer was called Doom Warrior. I've reviewed that one for you on the channel. And then he also produced a beer called Tompi, which was for his friend, who he went to a lot of metal festivals with. And this was produced when his child, when the friend's child got cancer. And you saw me, that was my last review that I did from them as well. And that one was a stout, if I remember right. I think Doom Warrior was a black IPA and Tompi was a stout, and they were both very, very nice beers. But Daniel's brother Björn makes all the artwork for the labels, and I'm sure, as you can see, it is pretty unique actually. But as of July 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 50 different beers, and they are fairly prolific these days. They seem to be releasing 1 or 2 different things every month through the Lokal Småskalig assortment. In my opinion, probably the best beers I've had from these guys have been, you know, the big malty beast. The Dubel La Bomba was very nice. Doom Warrior was a very good beer. I also had one, I'm sure Daniel had said it was a tripel, but it was actually almost more like a quadrupel, to be honest. It was a dark Belgian beer. So I mean, if anyone asked me, oh, what should we have from Möllys, I would always say, you know, something big, dark and malty. But as I said, I've not tried many things from the lighter side of the spectrum, but you know, probably the best beer I've had from these guys, I would say, would be the Dubel La Bomba, and I tried that on the back of a recommendation I got from reviewing the Sidamu Dimtu and the Key from Möllys Brewery over in Gothenburg. That was how I discovered this brewery, and you know, I do keep an eye on what they're releasing ever since. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Möllys Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different things that these guys have done. So yeah, that's all I can tell you about them just now. Hopefully I can get Daniel on the channel at some point in the future for like a Meet the Brewery segment. The guys at Eskilstuna Ölkultur have expressed interest in doing one, so hopefully I can go out there with my dad at some point. He wants to go back to Stockholm, so I guess we'll maybe do like Västerås, Eskilstuna and a few other places around there. But it'd be really cool to get Daniel on the channel for a Meet the Brewery segment when I do the one with Eskilstuna, when I make it to Eskilstuna. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as I said to you, this one is a 6%. A 6% Florida IPA. The artwork on this one, this is the second beer that I've reviewed from these guys in the can. I wonder if they're using a mobile canning unit actually, or if they've managed to invest in their own. I think Daniel has invested in the brewery a little bit over the last little while. But there you can see Björn's artwork there, very, very distinctive and very, very nice. But it says on the back here, a well-hopped sour IPA. I sound like I'm driving the hops. Here, yeah, Her Lotte Jag Humlens Driv. I sound like the hop driver, or the hop seller, I guess. But the taste, the taste and aroma work together with the sourness. The hoppy taste, yeah, the hoppy taste works together with the hoppy taste and aroma works together with the sourness of the beer, and this is a fresh and exciting hoppy juice, if you like. I like that. My Swedish friend always used to call beer barley soup. But yeah, this one, serve it cold at 8 degrees Celsius. So yeah, nicely presented, this one. The hops in this are Equinox and Citra, which is always an interesting one. So yeah, this one here, as you say, it says Möllys Kvarterbryggeri on the can here, but I've seen this one just listed as Möllys Brewery on the likes of Untappd and things like that. So yeah, but nicely presented, this one. Let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting. Oh, you can smell the Equinox and the Citra on this one as soon as you open it up. The Equinox gives you that lovely limey quality. This should be very nice. Should go the last little bit up. And there we go, you can see little bits of the sediment coming out of this one. Yeah, the bottom of the can's quite clean, I must have got most of it there. But yeah, this one looks as if it's going to be really nice. As I said earlier, I have had a few Florida type IPAs from Brewski in Helsingborg, and I think I've had 1 or 2 from Bryggeriet in Landskrona as well, where I used to work. But this, look at this beer, this is a lovely bright yellow kind of colour there, a lovely bright golden straw type colour there. You can see there is a good bit of haze to it, which will be the wheat that's in it. The head on this one, you can see it was about a quarter finger, and then it's just faded away to be a very thin foamy layer. I would say that it was a perfect white head on this one, but it's just giving you a kind of bumpy ring around the edge of the glass. Now, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. That's a cracking looking beer, in my opinion. But yeah, looks awesome, I have to say. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is. You'll get a lot of IPAs that look like this one, but the Florida IPAs, they will tend to be a little bit less hazy than the New England counterparts, if you like. So let's look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, yeah, it does smell very nice, that. So straight away with this one, you're going to get that kind of wheaty base to it. It's got a very light, you know, kind of crisp quality to it. Florida, of course, is a very, very hot state. I'm thinking in terms of latitude, you are, you know, in terms of latitude, you're probably, you know, you're probably on level with the likes of. I don't know, you're on the level with the likes of Spain, or even further south than that, with like Morocco or something. You know, Florida's a very, very hot part of the States. It was always very humid, I remember, when I was there as well. I've been to Florida maybe 4 times or something when I was younger, but I've not been to Florida in over 10 years now. Maybe nearly 15 years, getting old. But yeah, the aroma that comes off of this straight away, it's that lovely kind of white bready wheaty base, but then on top of that it smells almost really, really crisp. I do wonder if they use a bit of Pilsner malt or something in these beers as well, but you get that really kind of juicy, citricy kind of note out of it as well. I'm guessing that it's probably a mixed, I'm guessing that this one is maybe a bit of a mixed fermentation, to be honest with you. Maybe there's a bit of an ale yeast in there, and also a bit of a kind of wild yeast like Brettanomyces or Lactobacillus or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a mixed fermentation one. That said, they might have made, you know, over time, maybe different breweries have developed their own yeast strains, their own house yeast strains. Like I'm sure J. Wakefield and other breweries have probably done something like this. But yeah, this one does smell like a typical Florida IPA. As I say, I've not had too many of these. I'm by no means an expert in this particular style, but what you'll always get, as I say, is that kind of white bready, pale malty base to it. There's a bit of a thicker wheaty note to it, particularly towards the back of the nose. You do get the kind of citricy astringency, if you like, sitting on top of that as well. There is maybe a tiny little bit of a slightly biscuity sweetness to it, but that is quite minimal. There's a teeny little bit of that biscuity sweetness in the middle there. But other than that, the malt base is pretty kind of straight up, to be honest with you. There is a wee bit of a kind of graininess to the beer as well, but I think the combination of flavours in this one, just it goes together really quite nicely in my mind. I really like the aroma that's coming out of this one. So in terms of the hoppy side of the beer, then I think the thing with these beers is there's not too much to the malty base. It's pretty kind of straight up, if you like. But on the hoppy side of things, there's a little tiny bit of earthiness there, a good little bit of floral aromaticity. I do find this beer to have almost a little touch of dankness to it, which is quite interesting. And you've also got a little bit of a lighter grassiness, but I really think the green side of the hops in this beer, they lean towards that nice floral aromatic end of the spectrum. Both the hops in this, the Equinox and the Citra, of course, are high alpha acid. I think, if I remember rightly, Citra is like 12%, and I think Equinox might even be a little bit higher at 13 or so. Either that or it's the other way around. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this is really very, very nice. On the fruity side of things, I find this one to be quite limey. I think the lime is taking the lead in this one, from the Equinox, but you do get a bit of that juicy mango in there and a little bit of the darker passion fruit from the Citra as well. But you've got a few kind of gooseberry-ish notes in there that you know, there's a kind of complexity of the Citra. But the Citra, I think, when you mix Citra with Equinox, Citra itself can give you some sort of lemon limey qualities, and I think they are sort of promoting. They are kind of promoting the. They're promoting the. Yeah, they're kind of promoting the sort of lemon, limey qualities out of this one. I do find this beer leans towards the lime a little bit, but the tropical fruits kind of sit there behind it, so maybe it'll be a bit different in the flavour. But yeah, as I said, I've had a few encounters with the Florida IPA, but what you're going to find with this one is it's quite pale malty, crisp and wheaty. Bit of a citricy note on top of it, then you'll get some juicy, kind of slightly oilyish fruits underneath, and this one is a typical kind of representation of that. I do need to get out to Florida and have a look at J. Wakefield and some of the other breweries around there and get more familiar with this style. So yeah, do give me some Florida IPA brewery recommendations in the description below. That'd be quite an interesting one. Maybe I need to make a playlist of all. I maybe need to go through the channel and make playlists of all the different kind of styles and stuff like this. But yeah, let's have a look at this one then and see how we get on. So yeah, this one is the Nemesis, a Florida style IPA. It's 6% ABV from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri in Eskilstuna, out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Very, very curious to see how this turns out. Let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål. It's got quite a bit of sourness when you take that in. I almost feel like I took that in a little bit fast there. But yeah, this one's nice. This is pretty nice actually. It feels, the first impression of it is that it's very slick. But be aware with this, this is a properly sour one, so you'll need a few sips of this to get your head around it. Yeah, that's pretty nice actually. I would say that compared to my memory of this style, this one, the wheat comes out really nicely in the aftertaste. I think the malty side of this beer actually comes out more in the aftertaste. It doesn't have a bite sort of initially, but this beer in the beginning, it's very, very wet and almost very slick. And then the other flavours that you expect of this style, they evolve out of it a little bit later on actually. So that's a very interesting point to make about this one. I find this is one of the wetter Florida IPAs that I remember having actually. I think in fairness, it does change a little bit the more sips you take of this beer. You've got to just take a small sip of this one, I think, when you first have it to get used to that. I mean, I can see why people in Florida would want something like this. You know, this mouthfeel is very, very. These beers are a lot lighter in the mouthfeel, I think, than the West Coasters or the New Englands. The New Englands, of course, are a bit thicker and creamy, whereas the West Coasters are a bit more oily. This one's just very kind of wet and crisp actually. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting point to make about this. These beers would be very, very refreshing, of course, to someone who's, you know, living in 30 odd degrees every day. But yeah, once your mouth adjusts to this though, this beer really rounds out quite nicely. It's one of these ones, it's a little bit of a kind of shock to the senses almost when you take it in, but give it a chance and let it just kind of mellow out. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then. As I said, this is by no means the most kind of complex beer I think you're going to find from Möllys, you know, compared to some of the big malty ones we've had, and I think that's a pretty obvious statement, to be honest. But yeah, with the Florida IPAs, I think these ones are very kind of straight shooting beers, to be honest with you. With this one then, you can feel, when you first take the beer in, the sour citricy note just takes over the tongue, and it's just like a kind of the top of your tongue just becomes very, very wet, and it just rolls right across it. You've got lovely kind of sourness there on the front of the palate, but then what you'll feel in the middle third of your palate, the kind of wheatiness, the tongue just dries out a little bit, and the wheatiness just pushes its way out a little bit more. Yeah, the wheaty notes just kind of push their way out a little bit more with this one. You can feel there is a bit of a kind of pale malty smoothness to this one as well, but if you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel that the wheaty note just kind of thickens up a little bit. There's a good little bit of a kind of grainy quality with this one as well. And I do like that about it. It does feel as if there might be a very slight little touch of Pils malt or something in this one on the very back of the tongue. It just has that little bit of an almost Pils type crispness to it, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a wee touch of Pilsner malt in this one. Could be wrong right enough, because the rest of the beer is pretty smooth, and I think, you know, Pils malt in that sense is quite pungent actually, come to think of it. But yeah, the fruitiness that you get out of this is nice as well. That kind of blends in well with everything else. But yeah, the malt base, it really comes out more the further you go into the aftertaste. You get a lovely smooth white bready quality coming out of this one the further that you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, I would say most of the crispness from this one is actually coming from the yeast side of it. But yeah, there is something that tells me there might be a little bit of, just a little touch of a Pilsner malt in this one at the back of the palate. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, then I don't think we actually have to say all that much more about the malty base. And you might get a little touch of biscuit in the very centre of your tongue, a little bit of a kind of biscuity note, or cookie as the Americans would say. You do get a little bit of that in this. But on the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness for me, and that does kind of fit in well with the slightly grainier, more grainy characteristics of the back third of the tongue. But as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity on the front corners of the tongue there. As you go round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a lighter, grassy type quality pushing its way out of the beer. And I do like how that how all of that goes together. But yeah, the green side of the beer for me, it's a bit more, it does have quite, the floral qualities are the things that really linger there into the aftertaste, but the grassiness is quite nice as well, and it sort of suits the limey flavour that beer has. I think the Equinaut is a bit more prominent in this one, to be honest with you. The lemon limey qualities are coming out a lot more. I think the more lemony notes are coming from the yeast itself, the sort of citricy things. I don't know if, I suspect that it's one of Lactobacillus or Brettanomyces. Probably Lactobacillus, I think, going by how sharp it is. I think it's Lactobacillus that's in this one, and it's really got a very nice, it's really got a very nice, how do you say, it's really got a very nice kind of tartness to it in the beginning, which is quite nice, really quite sharp and slightly puckering. But yeah, the limey notes on the front edge of the tongue, it's got a lovely limey quality to it. The front third of your tongue is where all those juicy fruity notes come out from the hops, of course. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, a little bit of a kind of passion fruity note there, some juicy sort of mango notes coming out in front of that, and then the front sixth of your tongue, if you like, that's where the limey notes kind of start. But you can get some of those kind of softer tropical notes underneath, like maybe a little bit of a kind of apricot-y, papaya type thing as well. But yeah, the front part of your tongue, the front kind of edge of your tongue, if you like, is lime. It's the Equinaut that's coming out there, but there is a slightly lemony note to it as well, from what I suspect is Lactobacillus. There is just something telling me that is Lactobacillus that's the yeast strain that's been used in here. But I tell you something, if Möllys can produce beers like this, they are certainly very capable on the sour side of things. So yeah, definitely. I mean, the last beer we had, the Erotique, the fruit saison, was very nice as well. But I think after this one, I just picked this one because this is quite an unusual style, as I said. But on the basis of this one, I would be very curious to try the other IPAs that they're doing, because I think the impression that I get of this brewery is that they are very capable, but they've not really. It's almost like the kind of size of the brewery perhaps doesn't do them justice, because I think the beers, on the basis of this, if they can produce a Florida IPA like this, and they can produce some of these big black IPAs and stouts and stuff, that are very good quality. It's a bit of a shame that they're not a wee bit bigger. I think they could do very well if they did size up a little bit. But yeah, this is a solid Florida IPA for me. It's a bit wetter, I think, compared to some of the other ones that I've had previously. But as I said, I'm by no means an expert in this style, so I can't comment and compare that to some of the ones that you would actually find in Florida itself. But it's a solid beer, and I do like this one, and that should be the main question that we have to say. That's the main question that we should answer in these reviews. So yeah, thumbs up to Möllys Kvarterbryggeri for this one. I will need to see about reviewing either a West Coast or a more New England type IPA from these guys next time. So I need to see what they're releasing for August actually, and see what I can get. But I like how this one, I do like how this goes together. In terms of the mouthfeel then, this one, I say this is quite a light-bodied beer. The Florida IPAs always are quite light-bodied, probably top end of light-bodied, to be honest. But yeah, slightly tart in its mouthfeel, Very, you know, very light, wet and drinkable, this beer, I would say. In terms of hoppy bitterness and stuff, I don't think this one's too high in terms of its IBUs. I'd say maybe about it's maybe about 40 at the absolute most. It's hard to tell actually because the sourness is so prominent in this one, so it is quite a sour kind of puckering type beer, to be honest. And it's got a lovely kind of wet, juicy, fruity quality to it as well, and a slight sweetness to the malt base as well. But yeah, this is a really nice one. I do like how this, I do like how all of this one goes together. Actually, it gets a thumbs up from me, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. So yeah, have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. But yeah, this has been a cool IPA to review. It's my first one from Möllys. I guess the next step, as I said, is to review either, you know, either review one of the more West Coasty type IPAs, or one of the more kind of New England leaning ones. I think I've probably told you a lie as well actually, because I said this is my first IPA from them. It's my first light IPA. I've had a black IPA from these guys, so I've told you a lie all the way through this video, so my apologies for that. But yeah, this is my first kind of light coloured IPA, I guess you could say. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this was the Nemesis, a 6% Florida style IPA with Equinox and Citra from Möllys Brewery in Eskilstuna out to the west of Stockholm. I really enjoyed this one, a style that you don't come across too often, and one that I would love to explore a little bit more. But yeah, always nice to review different beers from Möllys. These guys are very capable in my opinion. So I do hope we can try some more from them very soon. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri as well. And we will return to these guys very, very soon. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers, catch you guys later. Make sure you check out Möllys and the Nemesis if you can. Skål.